We will now begin with the special address by Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Tarun Sobti, UYSM, AVSM, VSM. The session will be moderated by Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, PVSM, AVSM, NM, and BAR. Member, Governing Council, Indian Council of World Affairs. Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, PVSM, AVSM, NM, is a distinguished naval officer and a strategic affairs expert. He currently serves as a member of the Governing Council of the Indian Council of World Affairs, a member of the advisory board at the Center for Joint Warfare Studies, and co-founder of DeepStrat. Commissioned as a fighter pilot in the Indian Navy on 1st June 1974, he rose through key operational and staff appointments to retire as the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief, Western Naval Command. He has previously served as a Chief of Integrated Defense Staff, Assistant Chief of Naval Staff Air, and Controller of Personal Services, among other notable positions. As Fleet Operations Officer of the Western Fleet during Operation Parakram, he played a crucial role in India's maritime readiness. For his distinguished service, he has been awarded the Param Vishishta Seva Medal, Ati Vishishta Seva Medal, and now Sinha Medal. It is a pleasure to have you with us, sir. May I now request you to take over the proceedings. Thank you.
Director General, IDSA, DDG, and very distinguished audience. Well, if I have to talk about Vice Admiral Tarun Sobti, it will take very long. So what I'll do is I'll keep it a little short. He was commissioned in 1988, 1st of July, and he is a specialist of navigation and direction, a stream. He has under his belt more than 35 years of service, and he has had number of staff and command appointments, and that is why he's where he is. He's commanded a missile boat, that is Nishank, then Korak, INS Kora, the missile corvette, and he has commissioned the guided missile destroyer INS Kolkata. For the first commanding officer to get through many sea trials, etc., etc. And I saw him very closely during that tenure. Very important staff appointments, something called the Director of Staff Requirement, and that director actually lays down as to what will be the QRs of the future ships or future class of ships. So they really have to be very forward-thinking people, and they tie up very closely with DRDO, what we are capable of doing, with the headquarters IDS and the other manufacturing agencies. He's also been Director of Personnel, DOP, shaping the future Navy. And he was our naval attaché in Moscow. So very important appointments, and he is now the Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, who's in charge of the operations. This is Staff Branch 2. He heads the operations branch of the Navy. So whenever you hear that Navy is there and they're ready to do this and they're ready to do that, so now you've seen the man behind all that. He is the one who drives all of them. So I'll just leave it at that, and it's a pleasure to welcome the Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Tarun Sobti. Yes.
Sir. The Director General, Ambassador Sujan Shinoy, the DDG, members of the strategic community, excellencies, esteemed veterans, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege to speak at the Delhi Defense Dialogue, which after the impressive success of its inaugural edition last year has returned even more triumphantly in the second edition. In our civilization, deliberations on strategy and statecraft have long been a part of the public imagination. From the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata and timeless aphorisms of the Tirukkural to Kautilya's Arthashastra, reminding us that preparation, debate, and wisdom are the bedrock of security. That enduring spirit of reflection continues in our own times, embodied in fact by this very forum. The inaugural Delhi Defense Dialogue last year, themed on adaptive defense, navigating the changing landscape of modern warfare, was notable for both the depth and the diversity of voices that it brought together, from practitioners and scholars to technologists and policymakers. This year's theme, harnessing new age technology for defense capability development, is both timely and forward-looking. Around the world, technology is reshaping the global order. Some call it technopolar world, where technology itself has become a pole of power, shaping alignments and influence. Unlike the bipolar or multipolar eras of the past, this age is being defined by those who control the frontiers of technology. Our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi underscored this point when he said, and I quote, "Today the world is technology driven and the coming era is going to be influenced by technology," unquote. For India, this global transformation carries special significance. With vast maritime as well as continental responsibilities, understanding and mastering this transformation is not a choice, but a necessity. And therefore, my compliments to MP IDSA for sustaining this dialogue as a premier forum where such critical conversations are held with rigor. I also take this opportunity to extend my warm wishes to MP IDSA on its 60th anniversary, which is today, a remarkable milestone in its distinguished journey. So the question before us, and indeed the focus of this dialogue, is no longer whether technology matters, but rather how its rapid acceleration is transforming the character of warfare and how we must prepare for it. Hence, my remarks will be in two parts. First, a clear-eyed account of what is reshaping or rebalancing the playfield, especially the maritime battle space. And second, what the Indian Navy is doing to leapfrog these challenges. And with that framing, let me begin with the first part about technology reshaping and churning the playfield. So as the concept note for the dialogue rightly observes, it is not merely the relevance of technology that concerns us, but its transformational effect on the very character of modern warfare. It challenges long-held assumptions about deterrence, reach, and even the definition of dominance itself. For those of us who operate in the maritime domain, this churn is not an abstraction, but a daily reality. One that blurs the lines between surface, subsurface, air, and cyber, as also between peacetime presence and conflict time posture. It compels us to think of the maritime theater not as a series of separate layers, but as a single fluid continuum where actions have cascading effects across these layers. In my view, this transformation expresses itself along 5 distinct but connected fronts. From the way we see and sense the battle space to the way we strike, decide, sustain, and even collaborate. Let me begin with the first and most immediate of these transformations, battlefield transparency. Today, space-enabled battle space awareness, powered by commercial satellites, long-endurance drones, and pseudo-satellites coupled with AI and big data analytics, is making the maritime domain an increasingly transparent environment. This growing transparency is being explored through a range of emerging initiatives worldwide. For instance, DARPA's Ocean of Things envisages deploying thousands of inexpensive instrumented floats to create persistent, wide area coverage of the high seas, while the Digital Ocean initiative envisages stitching data from seabed to space into shared operating pictures. Commercial SAR and microsatellite constellations now provide revisit rates measured in hours and not in days. Combined with advanced analytics, this delivers an almost continuous, near real-time view of maritime activity. Yet, awareness is only one variable of the equation. As the seas grow more transparent, the premium shifts from detection to the orchestration of distributed yet coordinated strikes. Here, imbalance in the playing field is due to the rise of what can be called massed precision. Traditionally, navies faced a choice: a handful of costly weapons, precision weapons, or large volumes of less sophisticated firepower. That long-standing trade-off between mass and precision or between scale and sophistication is diminishing. Today, with the advent of low-cost systems and precision munitions, autonomous systems, and AI-enabled targeting, we are entering an era in which massed precision is no longer an oxymoron, it is an operational reality. AI-enabled targeting and guidance can potentially improve the accuracy of precision strikes. In some cases, actual experiences in Ukraine and Gaza show rising hit rates from the range of 30 to 50% and now rising to 80%, underscoring the growing role of machine intelligence in the battlefield. Now, whether it's a Magura drone launching surface-to-air missiles or Ursula USVs deploying FPV drones, lethality from micro platforms is achieving macro effects at sea. In this new paradigm, quantity has regained a quality of its own. Massed precision allows smaller forces to tilt the battlefield in their favor through networked effectors and coordinated fire. The third aspect is cost asymmetry. Advanced drones and loitering munitions, once limited to wealthy militaries, are now available at relatively lower costs and commercially, resulting in their spread to over 85 countries and numerous non-state actors. Lethal effects, which were once the exclusive domain of capital platforms, can now be delivered by smaller and cheaper weapons, proving that democratization of lethality is a strategic reality. Commercial off-the-shelf first-person view drones have significantly lowered the entry cost of precision strike and surveillance. Analysts note the stark economics. Long-range drones can cost only a few $1,000s. By contrast, air defense interceptors run into millions, and stocks are limited, a fact repeatedly underscored in the ongoing conflicts. Most of history, power belonged to those with strength and scale. Today, that order is changing as technology has armed even the smallest players with tools that can challenge great powers. The fourth vector is the disruption of digital domains, the arena where control of data, networks, and perception increasingly determines strategic advantage. What was once a supporting layer of warfare has now become a front line of its own. In this domain, information supremacy is as fragile as the networks that sustain it. A capable actor need not bring a fleet or an army to shape outcomes. A few keystrokes or lines of code could possibly achieve the same effect. Cyber attacks on shipping, undersea cable sabotage, and GPS interference, which has been reported across the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and very recently the Delhi airport, as far as GPS interference is concerned, demonstrate how the global commons of communications is vulnerable to non-kinetic coercion. The consequence is that the Clausewitzian fog of war is now a function not only of uncertainty but also deliberate denial. And mastery of denial can be as decisive as mastery of detection. At a more subtle level, gray zone activities from research vessels and dual-use fishing fleets to persistent satellite surveillance have become tools for information dominance, mapping every layer of the battle space from the sea floor to the stratosphere, gathering military-grade data through civilian means while remaining below the threshold of open conflict. At the same time, private actors and commercial platforms shape what states can see and do. Data-driven companies are deeply shaping the conduct of battle. Palantir, a US-based data firm among the most prominent AI-enabled analytics suppliers to Western militaries, has been described as an AI arms dealer of the 21st century. Corporate gatekeepers of data, cloud, and communication capacities now sit at the interface between civil economies and military operations. We have seen this dependence play out in practice. The Starlink outage briefly degraded Ukraine's battlefield comms, a reminder that commercial systems are double-edged. Yet, as we grapple with the present vulnerabilities, new technological frontiers are already reshaping the terms of security. Quantum computing, which is planned to be discussed in the forthcoming session, promises both opportunity and disruption. While standards for quantum-resistant cryptography are emerging, adversaries can harvest and store encrypted traffic today with the intention of decrypting it later when quantum computing allows. A strategy described as store now, decrypt later. This prospect makes migration to quantum-resistant cryptography an urgent priority for assured maritime communications. The strategic implication is clear. Winning at sea now requires assured information flow, resilient communications, robust PNT alternatives, and comprehensive public-private arrangements that harden the digital backbone against deliberate denial. Lastly, changing contours of cooperation. The accelerating tide of technology is transforming not only the conduct of competition, but also the character of cooperation across the world's oceans. Nations are discovering that the technological interdependence in data, energy, and connectivity now decides the contours of international cooperation. Cooperation shifting from presence and patrols to data sharing, network security, and safeguarding of critical digital and physical infrastructure. Nations are aligning to secure critical mineral supply chains and shape standards for emerging technologies that define the maritime economy. Undersea cables carry over 95% of intercontinental data traffic, yet they remain among the least protected critical assets. These silent arteries of the global economy have become both lifelines and vulnerabilities, demanding new forms of cooperation. Further, climate imperatives and the green transition are amplifying this shift, driving cooperation on low-carbon fuels, autonomous vessels, and resilient coastal infrastructure that can withstand both physical and digital storms. In sum, technology is changing every aspect of maritime power, from awareness and action to control and cooperation. So now I come to the question, so what? Having mapped how technology is reshaping the maritime battle space, I will turn from diagnosis to action. How is the Indian Navy harnessing technology not merely to level the playfield, but to rebalance it continually in our favor? For the Indian Navy, transformation is not a movement but a mindset, a continuous, a deliberate process of learning, adapting, and innovating. Guided by this spirit, it is our constant endeavor to remain combat ready, credible, cohesive, and a future ready force which is equipped to safeguard India's national maritime interests amidst this flux of rebalanced battle space. Our transformation efforts are anchored around 5 pillars. The first pillar is our operational agility and combat readiness. This evolving battle space as well as geopolitical considerations demand heightened combat readiness, from swift mobilization and forward posturing to sustained ISR, rapid response, and resilient operations across every domain. Accordingly, we are reimagining our operational philosophy and organizational structures to stay adaptive and ensuring that our agility prevails in an information-denied environment. Looking ahead, our foremost priority is ensuring precise and accurate delivery of ordnance on target. Through a whole-of-Navy approach, we are ensuring that innovation at every level, from deck to dockyard, translates into operational advantage at sea. We are progressively enhancing the complexity and realism of our exercises and weapon firings, operating in GPS-denied environments, engaging supersonic targets, conducting land strikes from carrier-borne fighters, and defending against drone threats. We are also constantly evolving and validating our concept of operations and strategies through rigorous exercises, most notably the theater-level exercise TROPEX, the latest edition of which was conducted earlier this year. A major milestone during this year's TROPEX was the Navy's first integrated cyber exercise, which brought cyber operations and conventional warfare into a single operational framework. Last month, we hosted a seminar on the impact of cyber attacks on maritime sector and its effects on national security and international relations, bringing together ministries, industry, academia, and all key maritime stakeholders. underlining that our cyber preparedness extends well beyond the naval fleet. Equally vital is the translation of operational learnings into doctrine, ensuring that insights from exercises and contemporary conflicts are embedded in our strategic thinking. To this end, we are revising our foundational documents to align with the latest technological realities and strengthen coherence in thought and action across every level of command. In fact, the Indian Navy's maritime doctrine should be ready for release next month, the latest version. The second pillar of our transformation is force structuring, because shaping tomorrow's Navy is not merely about numbers or tonnage, but about building capabilities that deliver agility, adaptability, and enduring advantage. We are developing a balanced force mix, an optimum mix of low-cost and high-end solutions for the entire range of missions of the future, be it high-intensity combat using surface-to-surface missiles and surface-to-air missiles, or persistent surveillance with naval shipborne unmanned aerial system or NSUAS and high-altitude pseudo-satellites. Here, with regard to high-end capabilities and potent platforms, it is a matter of pride that through navies and industry's sustained effort, India is the only non-P5 nation designing, building, and operating both aircraft carriers and SSBNs, a mark of our growing industrial maturity. By 2035, we plan to be a 200-plus ship navy. At the same time, continuous technological upgradation of our existing platforms remains a constant endeavor towards infusing greater combat power even as we induct new capabilities. Going beyond AI, we are also exploring quantum computing and quantum sensing for augmenting our PNT systems as well as secure communications. So true leapfrogging demands that our processes move as fast as technology itself. Which brings me to the third pillar of our transformation: process reforms for rapid technological adoption. Because leveling the playfield demands not just new platforms, but new processes that can think, decide, and adapt faster than the rapid transformation that we face. Our drive towards technological transformation of the Indian Navy is guided by a clear and consistent vision. Accordingly, we have promulgated the Indian Navy Vision 2047. Our growth trajectory cannot be constrained by rigid procedures, and therefore, under the Ministry of Defense's ongoing Year of Reforms initiative, we are pursuing multiple lines of institutional reform, from warfighting synergy and technology to maintenance, logistics, and human resource management, driving transformation in both depth and direction. Towards maintenance upgrades, we are focused on adopting digital twins, satellite-linked real-time equipment support, agile software development methodologies, and also harnessing AI-driven solutions for intelligence estimates, surveillance, predictive maintenance, and for supply chain and inventory management. The fourth pillar of our transformation is transforming the industry engagement. Built on the conviction of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance is the true source of strategic economy and the foundation of lasting maritime self-reliance. The Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh, highlighted this, and I quote, "Self-reliance in defense is first and foremost a matter of our strategic autonomy and is directly linked to our sovereignty," unquote. Aligned with the national vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, the Indian Navy has set for itself a clear target to become fully Atmanirbhar by 2047. Achieving this vision calls for close partnership with industry, academia, and startups, bringing together India's best minds and capabilities to co-create technologies and shorten development cycles. For this, we are leveraging our Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization, or NIIO, our technology incubator, which was formed in 2020. Additionally, our Technology Development and Acceleration Cell, or TDAC, is closely collaborating with startups, industry, and academia to handhold technology development and build indigenous solutions. Through avenues like Swavlamban, the Indian Navy's Innovation and Indigenization Seminar, the fourth edition of which is scheduled to be held on 25th and 26th November, we seek to harness and promote collective industrial potential of our country to develop advanced capabilities, be it high-altitude pseudosatellites, autonomous underwater swarms, or surface-based support swarms. To leverage AI, the Indian Navy Incubation Center for Artificial Intelligence, or INICAI, has been set up at Bangalore, which is guided by an AI core group under a 3-star officer. Additionally, for providing us with effective, low-cost, high-mass options, we have set up 2 special task forces led by 2-star officers who are developing solutions directly with industry. Indian Navy continues to take the lead in generating and pursuing close to 200 innovation challenges, connecting operational needs with industrial solutions and translating prototypes into production with remarkable speed. Yet, as we look ahead, the Indian Navy is committed to ensuring greater predictability and transparency in our acquisition through indigenization roadmaps and positive indigenization lists. So as we advance on this path, the Indian Navy's partnership with industry is no longer about customer and supplier. It is about shared purpose, shared innovation, and shared strength. Together, leveling the playing field and building the future of India's maritime power. Finally, the people are the true engine of leapfrogging. Their skills will decide how effectively we leverage technology and tradition at sea. General Patton once said, "Wars may be fought with weapons, but they are won by men." And if I may add, in the context of our times, women who proudly serve alongside our men. And therefore, in this era of technology transformed and technology-intensive battle space, we are viewing our warfighters as part technologists, part innovators, who are at ease with operating high-end technology. Here, we are viewing training as the strategic enabler, which makes proficient, adaptable, and mission-ready sailors out of each one of us. Towards this, we are equally focused on upskilling and reskilling of our personnel as much as ab initio and professional courses. To ensure that we nurture our own technology specialists, we are partnering with leading academic and research institutions to equip our personnel with the necessary tools and intellectual capital in niche domains like AI, quantum computing, advanced materials, and space technologies. In sum, our transformation is about preparing the Navy for challenges of tomorrow by combining technology, processes, partnerships, and people into a force that is agile, capable, and future-ready. So to conclude, the maritime world is changing rapidly, and our response must be measured and decisive. Our aim is clear: to build a Navy that pairs modern capability with strong character and steady purpose. We aim to do this by embracing innovation, deepening indigenous capability, reforming processes, and working closely with industry, academia, and partners. So technology strengthens strategy, not replaces it. Thank you. Jai Hind, Samna Varuna.
Well, thank you, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff. And I think that lays down the canvas for the session which is to follow as to what is the Navy's thinking. Is the industry coping up? But very glad to hear that there are so many startups who have been given the top of the line tasks, and there are people at the right level who are working with them. As I said, we're doing in partnership. It's not that we place an order and buy the product. No, we have to work together and take it forward. And I think that's the way to go. Well, though Deputy Chief has been wanting to leave, and as you know what the situation outside in the country is, and he's also holding fort for the Chief of Naval Staff, who's not here in India at the moment. He has kindly consented to take a few questions. So maybe one or two. Hands proof, please. Ajay? Yeah.
For Thank you so much, sir, for interesting talk. I just want to check with you about Rukmini satellite, sir. Now we got a GSAT 7R. Is it only a replacement of a Rukmini, or you've gone innovations of a technologies which are put into it, sir?
Anybody else? Yeah.
I'd love to actually learn more about the startups that you're working with, and if you could share one or two examples of what has worked really well, either one or two innovations or some startups that have come up with technologies that have really worked well, and what lessons that might offer to, let's say, other branches of the armed forces also.
You said, sir?
Very brief question. Is the debate between manned and unmanned in the maritime domain as sharp today as it seems to be in regard to the aerospace domain? If not, why not?
Up here and request Deputy Chief to try and sort of get to the root of these questions.
So coming to Rukmini, of course, the satellite was launched in 2010 and she lived her life. Now we have Rohini that has gone up. GSAT 7R. It is essentially a replacement or to do principally the same role that Rukmini was designed for. But since it is the satellite has gone up a decade and a half later, it has definitely added many new technologies and given us, besides multiple bands in communication, also higher bandwidths, higher speeds, basically. A lot of new technology have been used, and I am aware that ISRO has not done this all on its own, actually Space Application Center. But a lot of small startups have contributed in niche areas for technology. I don't know the exact details, but they have, I'm aware of that. So in short, Rohini does the same role as envisaged by Rukmini, but does it better with newer technology. That's the first question. You, sir, asked about startups and some examples where they have worked well. In fact, multiple examples I can give. We are working on a project for unmanned aircraft from operating from the aircraft carrier. So that is one very, very interesting project that we have. We are working on swarm technology, again unmanned. That's third. We are working on UAVs which would be dropped through the sonobuoy tube of a P8I. So, the sonobuoy tube has got a certain dimension and they would just be dropped from through the tube and released and be able to operate. So this is, of course, in the UAV domain. Through startups, we have managed to have a successful demonstration and now getting into production. Unmanned surface boats could be used for either defensive roles or can also be configured for offensive roles. We tried very hard to work on optical solutions for underwater communications. Somewhat successful, not entirely. So that's a project that we're still struggling with. An interesting project was to increase the communication range of the Chetak helicopters that initially they were limited by the range of the VHF communication, but now there is a provision by which the GPS location of the helicopter and some small little chat facilities available so that you can communicate with a helicopter at much longer ranges, well beyond VHF ranges. We've tried these out, successful trials, and we are in the process of inducting them. We've signed the contract with them. We call it LoRaCom. In fact, I could go on the long list, and we've had a very successful run with them. Of course, not all projects are successful, and there are some innovators who had promise, and we were very interested in the technology, but they were not able to bring it to a point where they've been able to successfully conclude trials. And there are a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's not just the technology that is there. There are a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's the ecosystem and the support that they need. Sometimes it's the quantum of funding that they need to scale up a niche technology into a deliverable product. And sometimes the ideas work. Sometimes the ideas don't work, not because of the technology, but because of the funding. So there are a number of examples, and we are very, very encouraged by this process. If you were able to take the time out to attend Swavlamban on 25th and 26th of November, it's being held at the Manekshaw Center. You will be able to see it right in front of yourself. So you had asked about manned and unmanned, and what are we considering as and is the debate as sharp in the maritime space as in the aerospace sector? One thing I will say is that we are going in for unmanned, certainly. And we consider it as an augmentation of the manned flight. But when I compare it to the aerospace field, especially the Air Force, the numbers that the Navy has are quite small. So the debate is actually not that intense. So there are two aspects to it. One is, of course, just unmanned. That's in addition, augmentation of the capability, whether it is deck-based, unmanned aerial systems, or whether it is shore-based systems. We are intensively going in not just for air, but surface, but very much underwater. And the extra large UUVs, we hope that they will provide us with the means of underwater surveillance, extended underwater surveillance, which we cannot do with manned. And then there is the concept of manned unmanned teaming. So I think the Navy is kind of looking at the Air Force, taking guidance from the Air Force, because it's a much bigger aerial force as compared to the Navy, and certainly we will take cues for them. I know that HAL is also trying to develop some concepts of manned unmanned teaming. And in fact, one of the proposals that we had informally discussed was the LCA Navy, which had been developed for the Navy, but for reasons of engine power and size could not give us the endurance that we were looking for, which is why we went in for a twin engine version for under development, well, trying to develop it. Yet, if you remove the pilot and you remove the pilot systems that support a pilot, for example, if the ejection seat has to go, and that's a large weight kind of thing, and you replace all of that with fuel, then an LCA Navy can give you much better endurance, and then they could be paired with well, maybe the MiG-29s or the Rafales or whatever it is. So this is an informal discussion, but I think we'll move in that direction. We'll let the Air Force take the leads.
Sorry, let me use my prerogative as a moderator to throw in two questions. One is the underwater domain awareness. Are we thinking of including this as normal maritime domain awareness network, or are we not at that level? That's number one. Secondly, this submarine communication cables. Is it likely to become the what is called the non-traditional threat, and we make an SOP that this can call for a some not very active action against the ships who are disturbing our cables, but obviously we should have the right of protecting it. Why I'm saying that here is China, let me name the country now, that here is China who is making cable cutters and advertising that I'm selling cable cutters. I mean, nothing can be more hazardous as this. So where are we on that front? I would think that, if you can include it in the non-traditional threats as one of the important ones, possibly you can consider that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your suggestion. But I'll answer the first question first. Underwater domain awareness. So this is an area that we are very actively working on, and we have, of course, a combination of DRDO and industry, including innovators. Also partnership with certain foreign countries where we are trying to work together, either to understand how they do it or to leapfrog technologies that they have, which they are willing to share with us so that we can establish a network of underwater sensor systems. It's required of our course in the choke points. We need to know what is happening below the surface also, and below the surface is as active a domain as is, well, not as active as the surface certainly, but it is an active domain. And threats can emanate from the underwater domain. Vectors, heavy and extended range underwater vectors, which can stay out for 6 months at a time. They are unmanned. They don't need the usual requirements of human being of food, water, air, etc. Can pose to be a very serious threat because they can operate for extended durations, pop up, communicate through satellites, inform the control center, continue moving. So this is a problem, and this is something that we are actively working on, sir. And just like we have maritime domain awareness, we have a roadmap for underwater domain awareness. It's in our case, it's articulated on paper. It's written on paper, and we are following that, including, like I said, cooperation with certain countries. As far as the undersea communication cables is concerned, it is certainly a vulnerability, and it has certainly been taken as one of the non-traditional threats that we need to protect. In fact, I was speaking to with the NDC this morning on maritime security operations and non-traditional threats, and undersea cables is something that I covered for them, that this is one of the concerns. There are two pitfalls in this. One, of course, is the fact that we have no cable repair ships in our country. And we have been, at least the Indian Navy has been suggesting this. The National Maritime Foundation, I know, has written. There are research scholars who've written excellent papers on this particular subject. And we are trying to inform the government and take the discussions forward. There are no underwater cable repair ships. And every time we need a cable to be repaired, we have to call them in from abroad, wherever they may be based. They could be based in Sri Lanka, in Dubai, or wherever it might be. And I think the government tried to get the various operators together to kind of have one which is on a contributory basis, the telecom operators as well as the government. And I think we're moving in that direction finally. But we know how the Indian system operates, and it takes a little time for us to arrive at a decision, then go in for actually acquiring a vessel of that nature. The Indian Navy also kind of investigated the possibility of multi-purpose utilization of one of our own vessels for cable cutting, but not cable cutting actually, cable repair. But we realized that it's a very, very specialized technique. That is part one. It requires very specialized equipment because you have to actually lift the cable off the ground. Submarine cable could be at as much as 2,000 meters deep, or maybe more. You have to have the equipment that goes down, grabs the cable, pulls it up to that distance, brings it on deck, then does the repair on deck, and then lowers the cable again. So it's a very, very specialized field with specialized equipment and specialized ships. So we found that it's not easy to repurpose one of our existing ships to do this as a dual purpose kind of activity. But the other part is actually what we feel in the Navy is a lack of alarm amongst the telecom operators, who at this juncture, sometimes in discussions, this is the inference that I've drawn, it is not an institutional thing, the inference I've drawn is that they're not as concerned as we are. Because the undersea cables are, there is redundancy, there are rerouting available, etc., etc. They feel that if there is a cut, somebody does something deliberately, there are enough ways to get around it and to be able to sustain the communications either through the rerouting or through whatever redundancies that are available. And that if that happens, then they will go and call a ship and do the repair, etc. So we've been urging that at least get into repair capability, that you can quickly respond rather than wait 60 days to hire a ship and then deploy it. So this is the somewhat view that I seem to infer from the dialogue that we have with telecom companies.
Well, Thank you, Deputy Chief. Maybe I'll request DG, DDG, IDSA to maybe do a paper on this and have it published as far as the cable repair is concerned. Your papers have a lot of weight with the government, so I think that will happen. So with that, I think we'll let the Deputy Chief go. He's been kind enough to take on these difficult questions and try and give answers to as transparently as possible. So thank you very much, Tarun, for coming here and enlightening us in this. Thank you. God bless. Round of applause.